And you know, GDP is only one measure, and it's not a very good measure, or income is only one measure, but it's correlated with just about every other measure that you can look at. So people talk about, you know, it's not only them, but it's the vicious cycle of poverty. The likelihood that their children will also have lower income will also be increased. Life expectancy will be lower. So it's absolutely every dimension of the American dream that they will be deprived of if they don't get a college education. There's another aspect. I've been very, involved in a lot of the, you might call it the macroeconomic debates, the debates about what our country should be doing to try to get out of the crisis. But one thing is very clear, that the world after the crisis is going to be different from the world before the crisis. One of the aspects of it is that America's position is diminished relative to what is going on in other countries. China has avoided the recession totally. They were at first worried that their growth would slow down to 8%. But that turned out to be foolish worries. Their growth slowed down to about 11%. India's growth slowed down to 9%. What is clear is that we are going to be living in a much more competitive world. One of the reasons for China and India's success, and particularly China, is that they have realized the importance of education. You know, the model that we've had, the view that we've had of China as a low-wage country that is able to compete at the bottom is really an inaccurate description of China's success over the last 20 years. China's success over the last 20 years has really been based on heavy investments in a whole variety of areas. One area has been infrastructure. Now, I don't know if you've seen what they've been doing with their very large stimulus. They were the best students of Keynesian economics. They actually listened to the economists, and they did what we told them to do, and it worked. But one of the things is that we said, look, if you take your money and you spend your stimulus on high return investments, you'll get your economy going in the short run, but you also will be providing the basis of your long-term economic growth. So the major part of their stimulus spending was to create a high-speed railroad system that is an important part of green investment. Much more efficient, lowering emissions as a transportation system than airplanes or cars. But it's very high speed, and it's totally changed the geography. I mean, everybody in California knows how the railroads that connected the East Coast and the West Coast changed America's geography and really changed the development of our country. Well, they took that lesson seriously, and they now, in the last 2 years, and in the next 2 years, will change the economic geography of China. Beijing was an inland city, now it's half an hour from the coast. And they are connecting their entire country, really shrinking the relevant distance, the economic distances across the country. But another very important aspect of their investment is investment in people. In graduating more engineers in the United States. They're not always as good as the Stanford engineers, but their aspirations are to have 10 world-class universities within the next 10 years. And just to tell you another little story, Columbia has a number of joint programs, Columbia University, which is where I teach now, has a number of joint research programs with with Tsinghua University and some other Chinese universities. And so I asked my colleagues, you know, what is it that you're getting out of this partnership? And you know, partly it's that you have good students, and we, you know, we'll go all over the world to find good students, and the students really work hard. They work a little harder than many American students. But the other thing they said is the laboratories in Tsinghua University are better than we can afford in the United States. That their government knows that this is the future, and they've invested. And you know, I go over there and visit these universities. And, you know, it does make us a little envious to see the kind of facilities that they have. But part of what they're doing is a commitment not only to quality of education, but also to access to education, making sure that everybody who has the ability to go to college can get there. It's become a really very national commitment, and you can see the percentage of students going to college increasing very rapidly. So that is the global environment in which we are going to be operating as we emerge from this crisis, and to allow any of our citizens, any young Americans who have the ability to go to college, not to go to college is I think, really a mistake. And so the real question is how we can make sure that happens.